Namaskar and welcome back. We live in a world where we're constantly bombarded with advertising and the latest new gadget. And I have to struggle with that too. I have a hobby of making music, and there's always some new gear that would seem to make things easier or more interesting. So dealing with that desire or making a decision about whether to get something or not, or which brand or that kind of thing, can often have a very externalizing effect on the mind. And that's just one type of desire. And desires pull the mind outwards, and during meditation we are trying to go inwards. So there's this contradiction or the conflict between the outward pull and the inward pull. And that can make meditation and just being relaxed and having peace of mind difficult. The other day, I had a little phrase popped into my mind which somehow seemed to give me a tool to solve this problem or make it a little less difficult. And the phrase was, every desire is you meaning God. And the moment I thought of it, it just seemed to put a smile on my face. It made me feel happier, and it seemed to make it easier to be a bit detached from the desire, or even to have the desire, but to channelize it in a more spiritual, a deeper direction, so that the force of the desire, instead of pulling me outwards, was in fact pulling me inwards. So every desire is you. The desire is changed into something internal. So I was thinking about that a lot, and I thought, I wonder if there's something that our Guru, Sri Sri Anandamurti, has written that kind of emphasizes the same thing. So I went looking for it. And today I would like to share with you the discourse that I found. It's called Shreya and Preya, which means, Preya is physical longing and physical attraction, and Preya is spiritual desire, right? There was another subtitle for it. Let me find that. Supreme benevolence and mundane pleasure. And you can find this discourse in Subhashya Sangraha, Part 3. In the discourse, there's a number of other rather interesting points which I'd like to share with you. So let's get started. Attraction towards material objects is called kama, or passion. Here, kama does not mean the desire of any particular organ. So, we've heard about kama as in Kama Sutra, and commonly people associate it with sexual desire or sexuality. And here he's saying that no, that's not the case. Kama does not mean the desire of any particular organ. Some psychologists have maintained that the sexual urge, a particular expression of kama, is the root cause of all types of mundane attractions and activities. This statement is wrong. For attraction is the characteristic of all unit entities, and such attraction will certainly not always be sexual. Those psychologists that give undue importance to sexual lust betray their own vulgar and licentious mentality. As I have said, not each and every attachment or attraction is born of sexual desire. Each unit being is vulnerable to attraction, but the cause of this attraction is the imperative urge for self-preservation. It is only because of this urge for self-preservation that unit beings run after crude, subtle, or causal expressions. And this urge for self-preservation also arises due to the desire for happiness in every living being. So it is clear that behind every attraction between one entity and another, which we call by the name of kama, lies the pure desire for attaining happiness. Happiness is the ultimate desire of life, not lust. It is not a matter of sexual or sensual passion at all. Propelled by this urge for self-existence or desire for happiness, one who gives indulgence to kama, meaning desire, and runs after crude, subtle, or causal expressions is a fool. Because none of these crude, subtle, or causal expressions can give lasting peace or protection, for the simple reason that they are all fragmentary parts. For the sake of their self-existence, if people give indulgence to Preya, Preya will eventually be unable to sustain them, and their fire of passion will reduce them to ashes. Those who seek ultimate bliss and eternal shelter should strive for the achievement of spiritual perfection. Then the urge for self-existence or happiness will find the ultimate fulfillment. They will live eternally. They alone will be truly immortal. They alone will establish themselves in deathlessness. The rhythmic peculiarities of the crude and subtle causes, the recurrence of life and death, none of these will be any longer of importance to them. They will attain final emancipation, final freedom, and become established in the infinite entity of supreme bliss. There are some psychological causes behind the emotional type of attraction of one object for another. Although the basis of all these causes is the desire for happiness and self-preservation. Why is there so much attraction between the hearts of a brother and a sister? The reasons are living together in one environment for a long time, sharing the same kind of food and the same type of education in the family, sharing the bond of the same parental affection. The absence of any of these causes results in the lack of heartfelt attraction of the children for their parents or for each other. The tender affection for the parents or brothers or sisters of a girl who lives for a long time in a hostel or in a distant country away from her parents is somewhat diminished. For in this case, her natural preya, or desire for happiness and self-preservation, is not fulfilled by her family environment. That is why wise parents generally do not like to educate their children by keeping them in hostels. The desire for happiness does not depend on emotional attachment alone. Rather, the attraction of attractive physical features or a pleasing form confuses the general mass even more. The attraction of a pleasing form cannot be so easily eliminated by discriminating judgment as the emotional or affectional attraction. It is for this reason that many crooks dressed as sadhus are being worshipped in today's society. Sadhu means like a yogi. Their animal mentality that is well hidden behind their ashes, matted hair, and tiger skin, the common people cannot and do not want to discover. They merely remain awestruck at the sight of a sannyasi's saffron clothes. What to speak of ignorant people, even so-called intellectual and refined people, under the spell of superficial charm, very often become involved in crude and antisocial activities. It is only when the eternal entity that lies behind superficial charm and emotional attraction is recognized that really lasting attraction or divine love comes into being. In divine love, the affectionate feeling is not merely enjoyed as an emotion, but its essence is realized. And the outer cover of superficial charm will not just give an external dye to make a so-called yogi. Dye means color. But when its essential color is realized, will transport sadhakas to profound spiritual meditation by dyeing their minds. So let's go back and have a look at some rather interesting points. So first of all, the statement that all desires originate from the sexual urge, he says very clearly, this statement is wrong. Attraction is the characteristic of all unit entities. So what it's saying is that everything has some kind of attraction for something else. Attraction is the natural characteristic of everything. And understanding that, we can understand that we're going to feel attractions all the time because we attract others, other people and other things attract us. It's normal and natural. And from that, we can also understand that you're not going to have any success if you try to stop yourself feeling attractions, right? Because attraction is a natural characteristic of everything. And you will not have success trying to repress them. And it's not wrong to have them in the first place. It's very natural. What we need to do, however, is to not repress those attractions, but somehow transform them into a spiritual attraction so that they will lead us inwards rather than outwards. And then it gives a very interesting specific reference to Freud, right? Those psychologists that give undue importance to sexual lust betray their own vulgar and licentious mentality. So there's a comment on the great Freud. Each unit being is vulnerable to attraction, but the cause of this attraction is the imperative urge for self-preservation. It is only because of this urge for self-preservation that unit beings run after crude, subtle, or causal expressions. And this urge for self-preservation also arises due to the desire for happiness in every living being. So what this is saying is that we all look for happiness. That's our fundamental desire, right? So everything that you do is motivated by this desire for happiness. And that is the same, basically the same as the desire to survive, right? We need happiness. Without happiness, we can't survive, right? So we have to look for happiness because not having happiness threatens our whole sense of existence, right? And we know that people who can die from a broken heart, or that people who can't find happiness will sometimes commit suicide. So that's how closely related this basic feeling of survival is with having happiness. We have to look for happiness. We have to find happiness just to survive. And then, very beautifully, there's a little bit of an extra emphasis here where it says, behind every desire lies the pure desire for attaining happiness. So I found this nice because it says that ultimately behind every desire is something pure, this natural, inborn human desire for happiness. We need it to survive. So you're not an evil person because you have a desire. And that's important because, sometimes we put ourselves down, we think of ourselves as sinners or evil, and that's a very kind of self-harming type of attitude. So rather than, desire for someone or something is not wrong, it's behind it is that pure desire for happiness. What's going to be important then is just to find some way to express that in a way that is helpful for our spiritual journey. And then it says, one who gives indulgence to kama, physical desire, and runs after crude, subtle, or causal expressions is a fool. So, a fool is something that, kind of, not necessarily an evil person, right? Not a sinner. It's something just who's a bit stupid, who doesn't, work out what's the right thing to do. So again, that's kind of softer. It's saying you're not evil, you're not bad if you have desires. You're just foolish because these desires simply are unable. You're not looking in the right place. The desire for anything in this world will only give you temporary and incomplete satisfaction. So to run after those things is simply foolish. The wise thing is to run after something that is eternal and infinite. And it's a little bit off the topic, but I thought it was very interesting where he says that if parents send their children away to boarding school, which is what happened to me when I was a kid, the result of that will be that the family ties of affection and love with each other will be reduced, and that wise parents don't do that, right? And what it said here with this nice example of a young girl who's sent away, that her desire for happiness and self-preservation when she's away can't be met by her loving home environment, which it would otherwise do. And that implies that she will have to somehow find her happiness through other people in other ways. And I remember that's what happened to me also. And finally, this beautiful line at the end, which is really the critical part of this discourse. It is only when the eternal entity that lies behind superficial charm and behind emotional attraction is recognized that really lasting attraction or divine love comes into being. And I think that this is, for me, the thing that tied into that little phrase that came in my mind. Every desire is you, right? So when you recognize, when you see the divine behind that external attractive form or that emotionally attractive thing, then that desire is transformed into something eternal, something lasting, and something really capable of meeting your needs. So, if that is the case, then we can accomplish that transformation whenever we get attracted by some desire. We can make use of this little phrase, everything I desire is you. And that will have a number of benefits. First of all, it reminds you of the deeper reality that the thing that I'm desiring, what is it really? It's God in that form, right? And secondly, it directs my desire towards that. So I get a better picture of reality, and at the same time, my desire is directed towards something that can fulfill my longing in a more meaningful and enduring sense. So what this last paragraph is saying is that behind everything which is attractive, either from its appearance or from some kind of emotional link, behind that is the divine. You know, the essence of the object that I'm attracted to, or the person that I'm emotionally linked to, the essence of that is the divine. And when I see that reality, then I find lasting happiness. So how can we put that into practice? How can we make use of that in our daily lives? Whenever we are pulled in one direction or another by some kind of attraction or desire, try that little phrase I said. Everything I desire is you. And that will have a number of benefits. The first benefit is that it reminds you of the deeper truth. What is everything? Everything is the divine. And the moment we, kind of get a more clear picture of reality, there's some comfort in that, and there's some sense of being on the right track. Secondly, when I remember everything I desire is you, it kind of releases me a little bit from that desire. So I'm not so much pulled by it. And thirdly, it changes the direction of my attraction. So instead of being pulled in a conflicting direction outwardly, my desire is refocused inwardly without repressing or stopping the desire, right? And it's not like, oh, I must block out that desire. I don't want this. No, I take the desire, but I turn it into a deeper direction. I take that energy. I'm actually working with the energy. I'm using the energy of the attraction, but I'm just pointing it deeper, right? So it's actually a force which is not, which is utilized. I'm making some utilization of that force rather than trying to block it, right? And so I'm just turning that force deeper. And I'm turning it towards something that is capable of meeting my needs now. So that's the last advantage, is that, if I desire something and I don't have it, then that's a kind of pain or frustration, because, any object that I don't have and I want to get, so I'm suffering from that. But if I remember everything I desire is you, then suddenly my desire is focused on something that's here right now with me all the time and capable of satisfying my needs and giving me the happiness that I'm looking for. Not next week when it comes in the post, but right now. So I get an immediate smile on my face. I get an immediate satisfaction. And, for those of us who are spiritualists, getting satisfaction from something spiritual feels like I'm moving in the right direction, right? Whereas everything else is kind of pulling me to the surface and to the external and somehow conflicting. So, some beautiful benefits, and I encourage you to try that little phrase, everything I desire is you, and see if you work for it with a little while, then you might get some benefit and some bliss from it. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was a little bit enjoyable. Thank you for watching. Have a great week.